Hey guys, so if you are unaware of Valerie Barrow, she is an amazing galactic channeler and author. She did a lot of important work in Australia, and she brought forward some fantastic information. We had her set up to come on the show, and in the process of emailing back and forth, unfortunately, she passed away and has transitioned. Surely she is still working for the light, and she is here today with us. But we decided that to go ahead and put together a compilation of highlights from one of our favorite interviews of her. We strongly believe in her message, and it's absolutely beautiful. She's a wealth of knowledge. She has some incredible ancient wisdom, and she shares a lot of forgotten galactic history. And we wanted to share that with you. So we went ahead and put this together. So can we just keep her in our thoughts? And we ask you guys, if you enjoy this, just to please share her message far and wide.
Hope you guys enjoy the episode.
Been prompted to write. I was actually called. I was never looking for any of this. I was called and awakened one night, and a voice, very dignified voice, was asking me to stand up. And it's a bit of a long story, and I don't know how much time I've got, Stephen. So can I just I've been asked to put it all in this book now, this latest one. And in part 2, it's got where I was holding the sacred Alcheringa stone, that belong to the Indigenous people of Australia. And that seems to be a big part of my mission into helping people to understand how the clever ones actually are able to hold and know knowledge even before humans were said to exist on the planet. They know about the creation of the planet, that type of stories, and they call it dreaming. Now, I've come to understand also that the dreaming, of course, is in science where we talk about the, what do you call it? There's a name for it. Can't think of it now. It's an aspect of sleeping, and it's just the one before deep sleep. And it's part of the dreaming so that it's not linked to the brain. It still has images and it can communicate, and your higher self, your God self, actually can send messages through to you. And this is what I understand is happening to the Indigenous people, the clever ones that have been chosen, and they know it's their work when they're first born. The whole tribe know that. And they actually then just tune, be quiet, they train. There's a lot of initiation. Sometimes they have a near-death experience and come back again, which has happened to me also. And when you channel, your brain's asleep. You've got this talk and this conversation coming through. It's actually borrowed your voice box to come through and speak. I have no idea what's going to come. And this is what it is with channelers. There's many of them on the earth. I understand there's something like 144,000 that have committed to come to earth at this time, because we are gradually, with the new energy coming onto this earth all the time, it's raising consciousness. So there's layers of consciousness changing all the time, where you can look back and think, well, you couldn't talk about UFOs, say, in the 50s, people would laugh. But now there's more people opening up to it. It's a big story. This is a thing. And I think the real answer is for people to experience it themselves. And they can do that. Everybody is a star person. There's no doubt about that. And they've come from the stars, and they're influenced by the stars all the time without really realizing it. And they have thoughts and think, or a dream and think, where did that come from? But it was meaningful to them, and it helped them make a decision about their life. Everybody has that in them, and we call it intuition, which means inside teaching. So we haven't been sort of just dropped here into an earth body without this consciousness coming with us, which we all refer to as the soul. And the soul consciousness is the secret. that's when you meditate and you can actually still the brain and actually connect to the soul consciousness, which can relate to your oversoul and then to your God self, if you like. Like I said, a little bit wary about the use of God, because there's been things done in the name of God which got nothing to do with God at all. And so people need to use discernment always. And that is linked to our feeling. We are all sentient beings, and so we feel. Something feels right, or it feels familiar, or it doesn't feel quite right. So we just leave that or let it go for a while. And we're training, and it's self-training, and it's discipline. And there are people that will help you to gain or tap into that actual world, that dimension, that consciousness, which is everything. And consciousness exists in everything. It just doesn't always have a language, and it's not just humans. It is in everything. And the Indigenous people in Australia understood that and know it. And so they're losing it a little now because of the white man's ways and them trying to adjust. And it's just so different. It's very hard for them to find a medium way to all interact. However, if we listen to them and quite a lot of the information that they have, we can learn a lot. And they certainly can help with understanding the environment and listening to the way the planet has been created and the necessity for it to be protected, and to, can I say, not have disagreements about whether we have climate change or not, but rather listen to the scientists that say that the world, the earth, is very badly polluted. And that is no denial. We need to deal with that. And once we deal with that, the climate will change. It'll look after itself. We have been invited by our contacts from Andromeda, who actually say they have created our planet in the first place. If I can go back further than that, there have been Star Wars. It's not fiction, it's real. And it's in mythologies of many, many different races on this planet. And there's a reality there. So the fact that there have been Star Wars means that there's been use of bombs and freezing so that things are actually, can't think of the word now, but just frozen. And so that that has happened also. There was a time on this planet when it was the time of giants. If you go to another planet, it wouldn't look like giants, but comparing to how it is here on this earth, this planet, it was a time of giants. And there were, shall we say, illegal people that had come from the stars to occupy this earth and were misusing genetic engineering. They're very clever with that. The source asked that anyone that is using genetic engineering, that they connect with the source of all creation and find permission first for all their creations. So it's necessary that we understand that the universal laws, and the universal laws also, we have been given free will. And that means that the star people can't readily come and help us. They want to. There are many, many benevolent star people that have presented themselves in many different names. For me, they have said they are United Planetary Nations, and they have agreed to help, and they want to help, but they can't just step in and take over. So they drop little thoughts around us, and if we pick it up, it becomes our choice, and so that we can move and be led or guided from those thoughts. However, they do now want to actually present themselves in a hologram of light, the same way they did to me back in 2017. Andromeda Val, she calls herself, actually presented herself and looking very human, and presented herself in this light beside my bed. And I was awake, and I must say I was a bit surprised, but it actually helped me to understand also of how it is. They communicate mind to mind. And so to communicate, they need channelers like I am, that they borrow the voice box and speak through that person. It's all been agreed to long before any of us have come. When we come, we have agreed to some certain amount of things happening in our life ahead of us. And one of the things for people like myself, with the 144,000 that have come voluntarily, they didn't have to come, but they've come to help to earth the new energy that's coming and gradually changing and calibrating the earth and bringing it back to the balance that it had before the fall of Atlantis. The earth almost died at that time, and there have been reports about that from scientists all over, and confusion for scientists also, because earth dated, shall we say, old earth became on the top of new earth, and so it's all mixed up, and but the measurement and dating could be very confusing. However, they have attempted to, with this sacred stone, for instance, in holding it, they gave a clear way of how it all happened. That was a brief overview. That is now part 2 in this book. And so if anyone's interested, it's all done with love, and it's also been blessed by the avatar of India called Sri Satyasabama, who actually called me and gave me this ring. He manifested it and put it on my hand. This is the one here. It actually is a diamond. And I was shown that it was actually made by extraterrestrials. I could see long white fingers working very, very fast. And it was explained that it was made the same way as humans make industrial diamonds. And so when Sababa gave me this ring, he put it in my hand and said, when you look in there, I will be there. And so now at this time, he helps people. We work on Skype with people in to go into a light meditation. It's not a heavy meditation at all, but the energy's there, and I'm able to take energies from my mobile, which shows the different energy colors and patterns that show up while the work's being done. And they're actually having scalar energy, which is what Nikola Tesla talked about. It's now moved on and calling scalar energy. And it helps to lift and recalibrate the, shall I say, the DNA within our Earth body. Because that's lagging behind. It's a little harder, it's heavier, it's harder to lift that consciousness, whereas our brain and our consciousness from our soul consciousness can be lifted much easier. It's done with our thought, it's done with focus and intent. And that's the secret, because in actual fact, when you think about consciousness, it is not limited by time or distance at all. And so it's all relative where you focus and what your intent is. And that's the thing, to begin to actually help yourself to actually focus and not get distracted in any way. And that is a clear connection to your God self or creator self. And from there, you can have conversations with God, if you like. And the important thing too is that you can actually, what can I say, give up your brain in what your personal personality wants or thinks, and dedicate yourself to your God self and follow from that point. You're not giving your power away, you're actually gaining it. And that's an important thing, but it's not important. It's important not to give away your power to anyone else, of course, not at all. And so you can actually follow and live a life here, which is difficult on this planet, because we are here to help many, many different star people that are coming into Earth bodies that are cold-blooded, that's in this corner of our galaxy, the Milky Way, and we have all agreed to help one another. And this is important, that we don't judge anything. However, it doesn't mean to say we have to be best friends with everyone. But there is a prayer. Now that sounds like religion, but it's actually science, because if you have an intent and a focus and you're calling on the source of all creation to help this person, then you hand it over, and then it will be led and given in any way. This helps the star people then to bypass the universal law of intruding without being asked first. So you can ask for other people as well. And if it's given, it's, shall we say, the creator's choice. You just hand it over. We are not alone, never alone. There's always our angelic self that is helping us more than anything else. An angelic self might seem like a religious way of looking at something, and that's true. But that's how we recognize it. But it could be another form, we could call it a God being. And it is a form that is our raised connection to the source of all creation. This is where we're heading back. We are, I believe, heading back to an alignment which we were out of after Atlantis fell. That was a big, big mess then. But getting back to Atlantis when it fell, it dropped in consciousness, and then it's been gradually trying to climb back up. And it's only something like 12,000 years. It was started long before that as far as Atlantis goes, but 12,000 years ago when it crashed and everything was all in a mess, absolutely being blown up, and all because scientists did do something without permission from the source. They were warned by other scientists and they didn't take any notice. And so there was a huge, huge second moon that was being created, and it went into the sea in the Caribbean near the, I can't think of the name, Chicha Club. I can't pronounce it, and yet I can see the image. So this is a secret, I think, about getting out more of this knowledge, more of this information and different experiences, not sort of taking on board what feels right for you personally, but not necessarily wiping it off altogether, because it might be that you just haven't got to that layer of consciousness that it does make sense. And that's what's been happening. We've been climbing like a ladder, climbing step by step on this level, which is getting to what they call a level playing field. And if you measure it, it's the same as frequency and vibration of crystal. It's no coincidence that crystal was used in first radios and also the first discoveries, or rather attempts to explore our outer space, that type of thing. So that crystal is very important. And more and more of the teachings and words that Nikola Tesla had, he said, if you want to know about the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. That sounds very simple. And of course, if you start analyzing, it really gets very complicated, and it's numbers too. I do understand it is a way of measurement, and measurement does take place with the star people, but consciousness is the thing. And so when consciousness, that means everything is happening at once. In other words, the past, the present, and the future is all together. It is where you focus and intend to focus. And drawing upon your God self, or an angelic being, if you like, or whoever you trust from other worlds, accept that they do exist and that we do not die. We leave our physical earth body, yes, that goes back, and the brain goes back to earth as dust, yes. But science will say that you cannot destroy energy. And that's true. It changes form, and that's what happens. We actually go back to the light being we have always been, as well as an earth body. We are an earth body and a light body, and the consciousness interact there, both of them. So getting caught up with all these technology and understanding, that's fine. And if that helps you to understand something, that's fine too. And so we need to respect always all the different ways people talk about things, and not be rude or brush it off. Just think, well, it doesn't quite fit with the way I've been shown or whatever. Honor each person and respect each person. And that goes in all the different customs and cultures and the peoples that are on, the races that are on this planet Earth. That way we will find peace, because it's only misunderstandings that causes conflict. We can always agree to disagree, but most of the time, if we just keep rephrasing the way we speak or express ourselves, sooner or later you find we're all talking about the same thing. It's just that we were saying it in a different way. Understand, if you go to consciousness only, telepathic communication, there's less likely to be misunderstanding. Now, Uluru is another thing altogether, because I believe there are Indigenous people, the clever ones. The clever ones will say that Uluru has come from the stars. Well, holding the sacred stone, and I didn't know anything, I only heard all this afterwards, that Uluru had come from the stars. And there was a conflict in that scientists say, no, it couldn't have come from the stars. There could be a huge impact crater, but it would have exploded, and it would not be really real evidence of an asteroid coming in. Well, the Star people have actually asked me now to write another book, which will be published in about 6 months. I've sent the manuscript now to the editors at the publishers, and so they're working on it. But I've also worked with a scientist, and he was a bit cheery. No, it couldn't be an asteroid and survive. However, when I gave him the clues that Alcheringa gave me or us, he started to change his thinking. And so we did put together a, what can I say, a PowerPoint presentation for scientists. We didn't talk about Star people because they haven't been officially accepted yet. As soon as they are, all, shall we say, theories or hypotheses that scientists have without the answers that they're looking for will be clarified. The Star people will be able to clarify and help them also how to get our planet back onto balance and the way it is meant to be from when it was created. They have actually put out an announcement, and that is on my website. Also, with a YouTube. I did channeling. Like I said, I don't know what's going to come. They just borrow my voice box and takes over. And they said they would like to meet the leaders. And so there's nothing I have to do, they said to me. But there's that invitation. So they really are working and wanting to communicate officially, and they will come. And they will present themselves in a hologram of light, the way they did beside my bed. They have the technology. They have the radio connection already with different radios. It's like radio. From our point of view, it's a bit hard to accept, but they have the advanced technology that does it. And we connect to Andromeda whenever we have our monthly meetings. And so they give us information or answer questions, that type of thing. And so it's quite exciting actually now, because they do want to come and present themselves in a hologram of light. And that's quite wonderful. And hopefully it will happen, and fairly soon, I think, because they are concerned about the state of our planet. It needs to be rethought about how it's used, how it's misused, and how we need to heal it. This one called The Secret Places of Light. It's a very appropriate, I don't know if anybody's seen it, by George Hunt Williamson. Hang on, there you go. And he's not alive anymore. He left us in 2015. And this book, just reading the first little bit, says mankind's earliest traditions speak of arrival of certain souls, not of this earth, who appear as radiant beings from heaven and who come to assist mankind in its struggle to develop its divine birthright. These self-sacrificing guardians of the human race have figured prominently in the wide panorama of human history. I really would recommend it. You can still get the book, and I got mine from Booktopia, and it's got a lot of information, and particularly about early ancient Egypt, which was the follow-on after Atlantis fell, and it was such a mess, and it had to be closed off. There's a net that you can't see with your eyes, but it holds our atmosphere in, and because of the craziness that was going on when that second moon broke and went into the sea in Caribbean, it created such a disaster that it was sending out energies that were interfering with our solar system and elsewhere. And so the hierarchy had to immediately contain it. And so that energy that was unseen there had to be tightened. So it was tightened so that the energy was contained. And it was said that what man had created upon the planet, man had to undo. And so now a lot of the star people have been coming onto this planet on and off for millions of years. And sometimes, particularly around Atlantean times, they tell us that the star people existed in civilizations. They weren't actually the same as humans. They didn't have the DNA that humans had, because we've inherited, shall we say, animal DNA. And we've evolved over the years and millions of years, and it goes back quite a long way. And at the time, and still is, we gradually, evolving and raising in consciousness and changing. There have been interaction with different star people, with our human body also, and that was written, and that's been reported also, which is, I think, a very interesting one in this story. This is actually when, can I say, we, after I had held that sacred Alcheringa stone, a year later, I had published this diary, which, as I said, has already been reproduced now. But it was a diary virtually, and it attracted a very lovely, clever Indigenous healer. He came and introduced himself. He was quite stern, actually. He was wanting to know what, as a woman, what I was doing with this sacred stone. And I always knew that it was men's business and that I shouldn't open it, and I never did. However, it still gave me all this information. And that is by just, well, I didn't know I could do it, actually, but I just held it and it just started flowing through me. I was filled with this bright blue-white light and these questions and answers, and I was still conscious. I could still see myself in the room, but and so I was assisted as well. So you can always get assistance with anything that you reach out and you really want to do if you are sincere. Well, at another layer at that time, I obviously had agreed to do all this, and there was something about that I knew, although consciously I didn't at that time. However, it's unfolded, and there was talk then about these Egyptian glyphs that were at Carillon that Stephen and Evan talk about, and that's where I met them actually. They're coming from a scientific point. We're coming from a metaphysic point, but they do interact very much so. So it's like quantum physics. Quantum physics, it's all part of the same thing. It's just that we haven't actually begun to explore that larger picture. And I think Alan was talking about that, and he was, definitely. So it's a case of opening up and finding a different way, and also making a ceremony, if you like, that you would like to know more and connect to your God self. Once you start doing that, things will happen. Be aware of signs and symbols. They're very important in that they teach a lot. There's an understanding. As I said, there's not the same understanding for each person. The first Lion's Gate was Uluru, because the Leonine race from our, Milky Way have actually, from Sirius, they actually came, they were part of the requirement by the hierarchy to help change the what was happening upon this earth. It was getting so that it was out of control. The huge dinosaurs had eaten all the foliage. They were dying back. Their bodies weren't going back quickly enough into the earth. The whole environment, the atmosphere was changing, and it was wrecking what the environment, what the hierarchy had actually created in the first place. And so it had to be stopped. They didn't like doing it, but what they did do is actually use these. My husband, actually, John, remembered the life of a lion and the lion people, and how they were like the cosmic cops. And so they sort of acted a kind of peacemakers. However, bombing Earth to recreate and let go all that existed at that time, which was something like 60 million years ago, because with the experiments of the illegal occupiers of our planet, they just came and took it over. This is the cold-blooded people. They actually took it over, and they we can't judge them, but they did take it over, and they were using experimental, having fun, actually creating new works of art all the time as they saw it. And so there were new animals, new birds, new crustaceans, a whole lot of things. There's a real story in it, and it's all comes out and explained in this book. This book was actually came together by many people remembering being star people and remembering the event that happened at that time. That was nearly 1 million years ago. Now, time differs with the star people and here. So it was a long time ago. You could say 700,000 to 900,000 years ago. And that was when we were lifted from animal man to human. Human is light. And so we were lifted with a soul and a light being as well, and which is what we have gone on to be and who have eventually become, because there have been more evolvements down through the time since then. But that was the big change. And we started to get this story after our friend Jerry, who took us, the Aboriginal clever fellow, the healer, took us to the site at Carillon. And these Egyptian-like hieroglyphs actually somehow opened us. We were all mediums, and it seemed to unlock this memory of being star people. And then more heard about it and more contacted me, and it seemed like I was the one that had to put it together, because my role at another time completely was with Alcheringa, who's always been known by many of the Indigenous people here, especially on the eastern side of Australia and Central Australia, always been helping. But he was the commander-in-chief of the huge mothership called Rexagena. Interesting, the Rexagena means king, and genes, of course, genes. So it's like King Genes, which came. They had it was very difficult. It's a long story. Recommend that people read it just to get a feeling about it. And once they understand and know, so many have since contacted, and I'm sure it's been passed on so that thousands know and remember of that particular event. Upstairs told me at the time that it was being written that all the people in the whole of the galaxy knew about the event, and they were very upset about it. However, so it is part of our evolution as a human race. And I think it's very important that we understand that, so that we understand also, you can get it, by the way, in as an ebook too, not very much at all. So I'm not trying to make money or anything. I'm just trying to share the work that we all had and what we did. And it also ties in with, they said upstairs, meaning Alcheringa and the hierarchy, say that all the people that were on that ship, 50,000 people on that ship at that time, it was destroyed, it was blown up, only 90 survived, 90 people survived. However, all the rest, they've all come back now. to remember the story and to remember the event. That's a big thing. So it's worthwhile thinking about anyway. I have purposely always, since I've been doing my work, I've always actually not actually read or watched any Star Wars stuff or any channeling or any other work, because I didn't want to influence my ability to just be a clear channel. So I didn't have anything else in my head, but I was given the understanding that, yes, Alcheringa and his wife, which is where I come from, I'm a messenger, that's all, here in this earth body, but, you know, at another layer of consciousness, I was his wife. And so that was why I and he now we were being appointed to tell the story. And yes, we were Lyrans at that time. And I don't know anything about Lyrans, actually. I haven't looked it up. I only do what I'm asked to do. That way, because I know there's so much and I could get confused. So I try to keep myself very clear all the time. Doesn't mean to say I'm an angel or I'm perfect, far from it. But it's fun and it's easier this way. Because if I'm asked to write, then I'm not confused. I just write what I was given, and that was it. But what they have said is that they couldn't give all the information to everyone, and that they would give it to different people, other people around the earth, and that sooner or later, which seems to be now, it would all come together and it would weave truth of exactly how it is and how it was. And if there's any differences, that's why they've asked me to just keep as I have been shown. So that doesn't mean to say that everything I'm doing is right, or that it's definitely, it's got a part of that. And it can be misunderstood. So when we talk about it and share it and explain, sooner or later we find it all interweaves and it's the same truth. It's quite wonderful, actually, the way they've put it all together and the theory behind it all. So I'm in service and I'm a messenger. That's it. Because there was also that prediction when I was holding the sacred stone way back in 1992. They said that there was going to be a great showing en masse of star people at Uluru, and all the world will hear about it. Now, it didn't happen. First year, second year, third year, didn't happen. Fourth year, because never gave any dates, which they never do. They had no dates. However, it did happen, except when I tuned into them and asked, well, what happened? Why, you know? Well, they said, we could see you, but you couldn't see us. So they're operating at a different layer of consciousness, right? And they said, Alcheringa actually apologized on the plane going home. He was talking to me, and he said that they apologized that they didn't show themselves en masse because of COVID-19. That everyone there was around the world, it was so much sickness, so much confusion about the future, and people were unhappy and worried, all that. They said that if they'd shown themselves en masse with all the fiction of movies they make about being attacked, etc., that they thought they'd have a nervous breakdown. So, so they didn't do it. I absolutely have no doubt the star people exist. Yeah. And I haven't actually made a point of saying that the people that I contact now, at the moment, the last meeting we had, which was just in August, and it's on YouTube, it's not on my website even yet because we do a transcript, they're in our future. They tell us they're 6,000 years in our future. So they came back. So they're like, I'm here and they're there, but they're communicating. They're back from the future. It's weird at 6,000 years. And you think, can't get your head around that. But when you realize with quantum physics and everything happening at once, and even Einstein saying everything's relative, it's where your mind is focused. And like I have said, the past, present, and future are all happening at once. Yeah. They are. But when you start, so say, analyzing and, you know, you're coming into and you're focusing, then you use measurements and that type of stuff in this reality, in this particular world that we live in here. Like with our eyes, we can only see so far into outer space, but we've got all these explorers that are sending back all these wonderful images. we wouldn't see that unless we had something assisting us to bring back. And then there's another one I like too, is the fact there's different layers of consciousness. Well, what about the layer of consciousness that's very busy with life forms of bacteria and virus? That exists. We see that in a microscope, but we can't see it with our physical eyes. So straight away, come on, open your minds a bit. There's a lot of things that we don't understand because we are limited in a physical earth body, but not with our soul consciousness, with our God self. We are given what we need to know. As part of what's happening in the future, it's like almost, from my understanding, and I don't ask these questions, I just accept what they give me or what they ask me to do. And with the future, what I feel is it's like we need to trust, because I think the future can take many different tracks, right? You could sort of start walking this path, then suddenly you veer off and you're on another one. That's your future too. That future for that person is different from that future there for that person, that type of stuff, right? So it can be very confusing. And it's the same for the big picture, like the universe. And when I talk about universes, to me, there's no outside. I try to think or explain what a universe is, and I heard Professor Michio Kaku. Have you heard? I like listening to him. He explains. He talks about bubbles, and in some ways, a bubble can sort of come together and become one bubble, or it can disappear altogether. I think we can create, and we have a choice too. And I think that's actually what's happening now. Yeah. They have explained. They've talked about how there's a separation that's been on the books prophesied for a long time, even in the Bible. You know, the wheat from the chaff stuff. It's not because a man with a long white beard is saying, you're good, you're not, you're good, you're not. It's nothing like that. It's to do with what our body, if you like, in this layer of consciousness, can handle, the strength of the energy and the frequency. And that is everything. And that's light. And when you think about it, it's connected to the sun. And if we talk about the sun can be so hot, it can destroy, but it also can nurture and help things to grow. So, you know, we're caught with this energy. It seems to fit where it's almost like there is an intelligence there that we don't understand totally in our physical brain at all. Yeah, that's another thing. People, if they trust and they're following their feelings and their intuition, which is inside teaching, if they're following that, they'll be at the right place for whatever's meant for them, even though they might not consciously be aware of it. That's to do with trust as well.